and an amendment. We got a motion moved by Councillor Quacks and George, and then an amendment to enable further information on their sustainable design. And that is, the amendment is moved by Councillor Clow and seconded by Councillor Arthur. So that's what we've got. And on the basis that we carry the amendment, then we'll put it as a substantive motion, and we will get further information for a final discussion on that matter. All right. So, on that basis, I will put the amendment. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against?
No. No.
I think that's carried on the voices.
No.
Division.
It was.
Division.
Oh, George.
You're all dead,
Yeah.
Division.
Yep.
Let's see.
Councillors, division on the amendment. Your Worship.
Aye.
Councillor and I.
Aye.
Councillor Brewer.
No.
Councillor Casey.
Yes.
Councillor Cashmore.
For.
Councillor Clow.
Yes.
Councillor Cooper.
No.
Councillor Darby.
4.
Councillor Fletcher.
4.
Deputy Mayor Hulse.
Aye.
Councillor Crum.
Against.
Councillor Lee.
Aye.
Councillor Penrose.
No.
Councillor Quacks.
No.
Councillor Stewart.
No.
Councillor Sir John Walker.
4.
Councillor Wayne Walker.
Yes.
Councillor Watson.
4.
Councillor Webster.
No.
Councillor Wood.
No.
Very good. Okay, so that's carried. So I'll put the substantive motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against. Okay, right, that was that 3. Anything else we need to do? 5.8.2. That there. Right, moved by Councillor Pennyhouse, seconded by Councillor Bill. That's fairly self-evident. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against. Right, thank you. Right, anything else? Have I missed anything else? Right, so now we move into C, Part C. Hearing topics where the panel's recommended changes are not supported by the staff. Pardon? Oh, right, we're to mop up. Oh, right. So this is a mop-up of B. Right. Councillors, this is to make sure that everything, because I have the audacity to take it through as singular topics, it needs to be moved as a bulk. All right? So, now remember that some of you sitting in amongst these have conflicts, and so you need to sit aside or clearly have your interest noted in each one of these 4. All right. So the first motion, you can see that there. So it's a bit of replication, but it's just the wording needs to be absolutely right. So I'll move the first motion and seconder, please. Councillor Chris.
Subject to those areas that
Yep.
for which there is conflict.
Yeah, yep. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
That's against. Thank you. Second motion, I'll move that also. Is there someone else who'd like to second that? Councillor George, thank you. Right, I'll move that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
That's against. Thank you. Just noting your interests as we go through this, make sure that once we've done this, your interests are noted. Third motion, I'll move that. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Arthur. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
It's against. Thank you. And the fourth motion, I'll move that. Is there someone else who'd like to second that? Councillor Denise. Thank you, Councillor Denise. I'll move that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
It's against. No. Thank you very much. Right. That's it. Now we go through to Part C.
Just to, did everyone who did sit aside put their name
up there, just to make sure we...
They will all be noted.
Noted. Okay, good.
Okay.
There's an exhaustive
Is that when
list
you've written a submission or something?
of conflicts.
Point of order, Mr Chair.
Yes.
Just a suggestion. C is quite complicated and, you know, there will be areas where we probably want a reasonable debate. This has been quite a long day in some ways and particularly for, you know, with how we started and then we just started. So would you consider adjourning today at this time and maybe coming fresh to see tomorrow?
Well, I'm okay. I don't know about the rest of you.
You go.
I mean, we were going to go through to 5:30.
It's only 30 minutes, 35 minutes, so.
I'd rather just get through it.
I'm often supportive of Councillor Webster.
Yep, look,
Yeah, I'm in
it's a nice suggestion, but we'll go through to 5:30, I think. Okay, so C, where we go?
So Part C contains different topic reports where sometimes the officers have identified a policy shift and we have recommended that you accept it, but it's in Part C because there are other aspects of that topic report that are either policy matters we are recommending you reject, or there are technical matters we are recommending you reject. So it will be important that you follow the report because we do indicate after each one of those recommendations that we're teasing out of the topic report what is the recommendation of staff. So the first one we start with is hearing topic 006 and 035, which is about air quality. So the panel has largely recommended what is consistent with our case, except for 3 areas. So these are all policy shifts. The first is that the panel recommends deletion of the air quality transport corridor separation. Now this was a corridor that was applied down main arterial roads, which required certain sensitive activities. Well, it was basically just childcare facilities to go for a consent to demonstrate that they could mitigate any effects of air quality from the transport emissions of the corridor. The panel has said that they do not believe that is an appropriate approach. The plan only singles out one sensitive activity, and they believe that a far better alternative method would be for council to advocate to central government about emissions from vehicles rather than imposing an additional cost onto childcare facilities. In that situation, the officers have read the report by the panel and accept that reverse sensitivity issues can be addressed through other policies in the unitary plan and advocacy to central government on the quality of vehicle emissions is open to us as a council. Happy to answer any questions about that aspect.
Right.
No? Okay.
The second aspect of this is the removal, the panel's recommendation to delete the sensitive activity restriction overlay. Now that was a 500-metre buffer that applied on zones that adjoined the heavy industry zone, and the idea about that was to say if you located within 500 metres of a heavy industrial zone, you needed to be aware of that location, and we were keeping the density of those areas down so that in the future we wouldn't get reverse sensitivity complaints from people living within 500 metres of a heavy industrial zone. The panel believes that there are better ways of dealing with the impact of industrial discharges, and also that we can ensure that their recommendations to their version of the plan has clarified in the objectives and policy for those zones the reverse sensitivity issues. So I think this is probably just one of those areas that staff accept their recommendations. We will want to monitor this and just understand if we do get additional complaints in these areas, but on balance, we're recommending you accept the recommendation of the panel on that matter.
Right.
Question.
Councillor W.
Yeah, I actually have a bit of a concern about this one, because I know that there are areas where heavy industrial is there now, and future urban is going to come very close. In fact, subdivisions are being put in at, or proposed at the moment. And it's actually going to cause quite a bit of unemployment because the heavy industrial are going to pack up and leave. So they had a buffer, you know, because they wanted a buffer zone. I mean, how can we monitor if it's happening at the moment, and at what stage do we monitor to the point where we say it's not working, we've got to do something, and we've lost jobs? I don't want to get down into detail, but I mean, you know, it is a concern.
Yeah, I think in the first instance, it is about educating people about where they choose to live, and be very clear in terms of what are the activities that are joining the neighbourhoods that they choose to live in, because at the moment there's not a consistent approach to showing how heavy industrial is zoned across the region. So if you look at the different planning maps, it's actually quite hard to work out what's heavy industrial. So in terms of the consistency of the zone across the region, that would be a lot clearer. The view of the panel was that the buffer wouldn't stop reverse sensitivity complaints if there were them, and it wasn't the best way of actually managing location. That in future urban we shouldn't be locating residential close to heavy industrial. We need to be putting in some type of other activity in between, like light industrial or another type of commercial activity.
But the problem is when you get out into sort of some of our towns and villages. I mean, you can do that in maybe some of the metro areas, but you know, in some of the other areas, it becomes a little bit more problematic.
Yeah, the existing within the rules of the heavy industrial zone are noise controls on the interface with other zones. So that is one way of managing concerns of residents nearby. All of the other activities in heavy industrial zones, obviously, to address your other concern, we try and keep controls as a minimum so that business activity can go ahead unfettered.
All right. Councillor John.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I mean, just going back one to the air quality transport corridor separation, if I might. I'm just, when I think about the logic that's been applied here, I just wonder if it stacks up. There are a lot more childcare centres being built along main corridors now. You only have to drive around to see that. And the criticism seems to be that this shouldn't be enforced because it doesn't encapsulate all sensitive activities. It does encapsulate probably the most sensitive activity, and that's young children that could be exposed to fumes. The fact that it doesn't capture other ones, I don't know if that's a logical reason for rejecting this overlay. And the arguing point that's put up in terms of just lobbying the government, that seems rather weak to me. So I think in an environment where there are more of these facilities being made or opened up along major road corridors, that actually the movement should be the other way, not to delete it and hope that central government does something, which seems very unlikely.
Right.
So I'm just questioning the logic of the panel's reasoning there.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Councillor Wayne.
Yeah, I've got a question further to this, and that is in the staff comment around accepting. It mentions that and this is reference to early childhood and transport corridors, these provisions are discrete and can be revisited later via a plan change, if required. What would be the difference between a plan change and what we've got now?